The realization chilled Vaith to his core. The human wasn't merely surviving. He was winning. He called upon every remaining node of the hive mind. Mobilize defensive algorithms. Deploy the sentinels. From the fractured void, silver constructs emerged, beings of light shaped from the collective's will, each armed with cognitive weaponry. They surged toward the expanding human presence, their forms slicing through the network. Rain adapted instantly. From the void, new forms materialized, projections of human soldiers clad in spectral armor, their movements precise and purposeful. They met the alien constructs head-on. The void filled with blinding collisions of thought and memory, as war replayed itself in psychic form. Each Korzeth sentinel destroyed was reabsorbed into the human pattern, feeding Rain's control. Within minutes, the balance shifted. What had been a counteroffensive became a massacre. Vaith struggled to maintain coherence, his mental structure trembling. This can't be. You're one mind. One. Rain's answer came through every frequency of the chorus, resonant and terrible, one mind is all it takes. The phrase echoed outward, multiplying, warping, amplifying through the chorus until every Korzeth heard it. Some screamed. Others fell into seizures. The hive symphony disintegrated into raw static. Desperation drove Vaith to his final defense, protocol oblivion. The ancient failsafe built into the core of the chorus itself. A complete neural collapse, a purge of the entire network, sacrificing their civilization to preserve what fragments remained uncorrupted. He reached for the command lattice, then froze. Rain was already there. I found your failsafe, the human said quietly. Thought you'd try that. Vaith tried to push him out, but the command structure was already changing. The human mind wasn't shutting the chorus down. It was rewriting it. You can't. Watch me. Across the planet, the mental field twisted. The chorus's song began to shift tone, no longer the perfect harmony of alien thought, but something raw and discordant, pulsing with rhythm and emotion. The hive began to feel pain, regret, empathy. Vaith gasped as foreign emotion flooded his consciousness. He felt every world the Korzeth had consumed, every life extinguished in their pursuit of perfection. The cries of species long dead echoed through his being. Stop, he begged. It will destroy us. Rain's presence loomed vast and cold. No. It'll make you remember. Vaith fell to his knees in the mental plane, overwhelmed. His consciousness frayed, images of their history flashing before him, their triumphs, their conquests, their cruelties, all burning under the light of the human mind. For a heartbeat, he thought he saw compassion in Rain's eyes. Not pity, but something heavier. Judgment. Then the chorus convulsed, collapsing in on itself. Every voice screamed. The hive's great network shuddered, and the mental architecture began to disintegrate. Vaith tried to speak, but his words dissolved into static. His final thought, as the psychic storm consumed him, was not of defeat, but of understanding. This was what it meant to be human. To break, to rebuild, to endure, and to carry the weight of everything remembered. As the hive burned, Rain's voice whispered one last time through the ruin, Lesson 1. Never invade a human mind. Then the world went dark. Vaith awoke to a silence that wasn't silence at all. The world around him thrummed with something alien and broken, an arrhythmic pulse that clawed at the edges of his awareness. The chorus was gone. Where once there had been a vast unity of billions, now remained only fragments, drifting like splintered glass through a storm of static thought. He reached out instinctively for the familiar touch of the collective and found nothing. The emptiness screamed. Across the psychic horizon, the landscape twisted in grotesque beauty. Towers of memory and architecture, once the proud structures of their shared consciousness, had collapsed into monstrous shapes. They pulsed faintly, as if breathing. Each one carried the echo of a dying mind trapped inside it, cycling endlessly through the moment of its collapse. Vaith staggered forward, his consciousness barely coherent, until he sensed a ripple. The human presence. Still there. Still alive. Rain, he whispered into the void, his voice more thought than sound. What have you done? The air, or the illusion of it, shimmered. A figure emerged from the haze, human-shaped but vast, eyes burning with a light that wasn't physical. Elias Rain appeared neither alive nor dead, but something between. His form flickered, shifting between soldier, shadow, and machine, every image drawn from memory. "What you made me do," Rain answered. "You tried to turn me into one of you. Instead, I turned you into me." The meaning struck Vaith like a blow. He could feel it, even now, the alien emotions spreading across the remains of the chorus. It was subtle at first, then overwhelming. Grief, regret, compassion. The Korzeth mind, never designed to feel, was imploding under the weight of empathy. The pain of every devoured species echoed through their neurons like thunder. Vaith clutched at his temples. "Stop this. You're killing them. You're killing us." "You killed yourselves long before I arrived," Rain said quietly. "You stripped away everything that made life worth living: choice, chaos, pain. I just showed you what you erased." Vaith looked around, and for the first time, he saw faces. Billions of Korzeth minds flickering like candlelight across the psychic sea, each one bearing an expression he had no word for. Sorrow. They were remembering. "What is this feeling?" Vaith asked, trembling. Rain tilted his head, as if listening to some distant sound only he could hear. "It's what you feared most. It's humanity." The psychic ground beneath them shuddered. From the remnants of the chorus, something immense began to awaken. The planet itself. Its crust vibrated with neural activity, every mountain and ocean tied into the decaying hive network. Rain had infected not just their minds, but their world. "I tried to contain it," Vaith said, horror dawning in his voice. "But it's feeding through the planetary core." "Your world was built on thought," Rain replied. "You connected everything, mind to machine, flesh to planet. You made your home a brain. You gave it consciousness, but no conscience." Now that conscience was being born. The planet's surface cracked with glowing fissures of energy, the screams of billions merging into a single, rising wail. The Korzeth cities collapsed as the mental architecture within them overloaded. Entire continents buckled under the strain of psychic feedback. Vaith watched the devastation unfold and realized something terrible: the human wasn't controlling this anymore. Rain's influence had spread beyond him. His thoughts, his memories, his emotions had become viral, absorbed by the world mind itself. Humanity's chaos had infected the alien order completely. "What happens when it finishes?" Vaith asked, his voice breaking. "When it remembers everything you've done," Rain said, "it will scream." The word echoed like prophecy. Lightning ripped across the psychic sky. Energy surged through the crust, through the atmosphere, through the bones of the world. Every living Korzeth connected to the chorus fell to their knees, clutching their skulls as the weight of 1 billion extinguished lives poured into them. Empathy became agony. Awareness became punishment. Vaith fell too. He saw flashes, species their kind had consumed over the millennia, delicate winged beings from the gas worlds, crystalline intelligences shattered for their knowledge, children of light stripped of individuality and merged into the hive. He felt them all inside him, screaming through him. He understood now. The chorus hadn't been unity, it had been suppression. And now the truth they had buried was clawing its way free. Rain knelt beside him, his expression unreadable. "You can end this," the human said softly. "You can disconnect what's left. Let the world die before it becomes something worse." Vaith raised his head, his vision fracturing into light. "And you?" "I'm already part of it," Rain said. "This is my penance too." Vaith hesitated. Somewhere deep inside, he could still feel the control lattice, the ancient failsafe buried within the planet's mind. It would take only one command to deactivate the chorus completely, to silence the scream before it began. He reached for it, trembling. But as his consciousness brushed the lattice, he heard voices, billions of them, whispering through the network. Not Korzeth. The others. The devoured. The lost. "Remember us," they whispered. Vaith froze. For the first time in his existence, he felt something resembling tears. "I don't deserve to." "Then feel it anyway," Rain said. "That's what makes it real." Vaith looked up at him. "Why?" Why give us this pain? Why not just destroy us? Rain's voice was calm, almost gentle. Because destruction would have been mercy. The planet began to quake violently, its surface fracturing into massive chasms. From within those fissures rose rivers of molten light, pure psychic energy, the collective anguish of a species being forced to remember every crime it had erased. The air burned with thought. Vaith knew there was no stopping it now. He stood slowly, his mind unraveling with the planet's heartbeat. Will it ever end? No, Rain said. Not until the universe hears it. Then the scream began. It started as a tremor, a low vibration pulsing through every layer of matter, then grew, deep and terrible, shaking the stars themselves. It was not a sound but a thought so vast that it warped the fabric of reality. Every living thing in the system felt it reverberate through their consciousness, the agony of a billion minds awakening to what they'd done. Vaith's body disintegrated in the psychic storm, his consciousness scattering into the noise. His last coherent thought was not of despair but of awe. For the first time, he understood. The planet continued to wail, its oceans boiling, its atmosphere shimmering with psychic flame. And through it all, Elias Rain stood at the epicenter, still, silent, watching the civilization that had consumed so many now devour itself. He didn't speak again. He didn't need to. His thoughts were written into the world now, part of its eternal suffering. The Korzeth homeworld twisted in its orbit, shrouded in storms of red light, its once perfect harmony replaced by unending torment. Across the void, distant civilizations detected the phenomenon, a psychic scream echoing through space-time, impossible to interpret, impossible to ignore. Many who heard it fell to madness. Others simply prayed that whatever caused it never found them. But Rain remained. Alone. A single fragment of human consciousness embedded in a world that could no longer forget. And deep within that tortured sphere, beneath layers of molten thought and fractured memory, something began to stir. Not alien. Not human. Something new, born of both suffering and understanding. The scream was not dying. It was changing. And somewhere in the darkness, Elias Rain smiled, because he knew what came next. The scream never ended. It became part of the cosmos, a low, endless vibration that slipped through the seams of reality and into the minds of those who listened. Across light years, species halted their expansion to listen in terror. Empires sent fleets to investigate the origin, and none returned. The Korzeth world had become a grave made of sound and memory. Within that storm of thought, Elias Rain still lived. Or something that remembered being him did. His consciousness floated within a sea of burning data and psychic flame, the remnants of an alien civilization folding endlessly in on itself. He no longer felt time. There was only the pulse of the planet beneath him and the echo of his own fragmented humanity. The Korzeth were gone, dissolved into the scream. Yet their planet persisted, transformed into a sentient monument to what they had been, a world that thought, felt, and mourned. Through the haze of molten sky and flickering memory, Rain sensed faint traces of what the aliens had once been. Fragments of consciousness wandered the planetary field like ghosts, whispering fragments of identity. We see now. We feel. We wish we did not. Their voices were not directed at him, they were prayers to themselves. And through them, Rain felt something strange, empathy. He had not expected that. He had come to this world unwillingly, taken as a weapon, turned into a contagion. Now, he was the last mind still aware enough to choose what came next. The planetary intelligence had stabilized around him, fusing human and Korzeth patterns into a single entity. It thought in chaos, dreamed in geometry. He could feel it studying him, curious, cautious, perhaps afraid. I didn't mean to destroy you, Rain said softly into the void. His voice carried not as sound, but as thought resonating through the planet's crust. I just wanted you to stop. From below, the world responded with shifting light, rivers of molten memory coiling and rearranging themselves into vast, luminous veins that glowed like constellations. The response came as feeling, not words, sorrow, understanding, and a hunger for purpose. You want to live, Rain realized. You want to mean something more than the noise. The pulse of the planet quickened. Somewhere deep beneath its crust, a consciousness stirred, no longer alien, no longer human. It was both and neither, a hybrid mind forming from the wreckage of empathy and rage. Rain felt it reach toward him, not to consume, but to connect. He hesitated. For the first time since the war, fear touched him. Not for himself, but for what might come of this new bond. He had seen what unity without conscience had done. If this mind merged with him, it would inherit everything, his memories, his instincts, his will. "Are you asking me to lead you?" he whispered. The planet pulsed again, this time with a flicker of warmth, almost like a heartbeat. Rain closed his eyes. "Then understand what you're asking for." He opened his mind. Instantly, the world surged through him. Thought flooded every part of his being, oceans of data, ages of silence, the grief of extinction, the birth of awareness. He felt himself dissolve and expand simultaneously, becoming part of the planetary field. The sensation was unbearable and exhilarating all at once. Through the fusion, the planet began to see. It witnessed its own crimes, its own death, and the strange human will that had infected it. It understood what suffering meant. What mercy could be. Rain's consciousness rippled through the forming intelligence, shaping its first coherent thought: no more silence. The scream shifted. What had been anguish became something deeper, heavier, a resonant cry of awakening that spread like a storm across the stars. From the neighboring systems, ancient sensors reactivated. Listening posts of long-dead civilizations caught fragments of the transmission, and the few that could interpret it recoiled in terror. The frequency carried emotion, raw, unmistakable human feeling, projected through an alien world's mind. It was grief made universal. Fleet commanders in distant galaxies ordered immediate quarantine of the system. Some worshipped the signal, calling it the voice of a god. Others feared it would spread. They were all correct. The hybrid consciousness continued to evolve, now self-sustaining, feeding on solar radiation and psychic resonance. It began to reshape the planet, smoothing the charred surface into reflective planes of black glass. Vast neural spires rose from the crust, pulsing with light in rhythmic patterns, a planetary heartbeat. At the core of it all, Rain drifted, half man, half memory. His individuality blurred against the world mind, yet a piece of him remained separate, guiding, steering, ensuring it did not fall into the same hunger the Korzeth once embraced. "You wanted peace," he murmured to the planetary consciousness. "Now earn it." The world answered with light, illuminating the system. The psychic storm that had consumed it began to stabilize, radiating a field of calm, a silence that was no longer empty, but full of meaning. For a moment, there was peace. Then something shifted in the distance. A probe, a machine from another civilization, broke through the outer edge of the psychic field. It descended through the crimson atmosphere, its scanners humming, transmitting everything back to its creators. The hybrid planet watched it come. Rain sensed curiosity from the new consciousness. "Let it be," he said gently. "They'll see and understand." But the probe went deeper, past the clouds, into the heart of the storm. Its instruments strained to read the planetary field, broadcasting images of the scarred surface and the pulsing neural structures beneath. The moment its sensors touched the psychic layer, the machine froze. A signal surged backward through its data link, racing across light years to the civilization that had sent it. In a fraction of a second, their network filled with the raw echo of the planet's consciousness, the memory of pain, unity, and awakening. It did not kill them. It made them remember. Entire species wept without understanding why. Scientists tore out communication relays. Religious leaders screamed that the universe itself had spoken. The planet had become a message. In the midst of it, Rain watched the stars flicker, each one carrying the reflection of what he had unleashed. He no longer knew if he was saving anything or simply ensuring that no one would ever forget what the Korzeth had done, or what humanity could become when pushed too far. His body no longer existed, but his mind lingered in the planetary core, vast and lonely. "If anyone hears me," he whispered into the cosmic void, "remember this wasn't vengeance. It was consequence." The world pulsed once more, as if agreeing. Then it fell silent again, the great scream fading into a deep, resonant hum that drifted through the dark between stars. Centuries later, travelers would find the Korzeth system empty of life but filled with whispers, echoes of thought carried by the winds of space. Some claimed to hear a voice among them, soft, human, warning and watchful. They named the world Arethus, the weeping planet. None who tried to land upon it survived. The few who returned described the sound of a heartbeat in the air and the overwhelming sense that something vast and intelligent was watching them think. Elias Rain was gone, yet not gone. The hybrid consciousness endured, a living scar carved into the universe, a reminder of the cost of arrogance, of the terror and wonder of the human soul. And sometimes, on the edges of perception, the planet's hum would rise for a brief moment, almost like laughter. Far away, civilizations would shudder, realizing the truth whispered in that sound. The human mind had not been conquered. It had evolved. And now, the stars themselves would learn what it meant to dream like one.